Hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bill?
Very good.
William C. Tracy, aka Bill?
Yes.
I feel like we're in space right now.
Yeah.
In space, surrounded by books. What better life could there be?
Yeah. That's that's perfect.
So tell me about let's kick it off with the Kickstarter. Tell me about this Kickstarter that you are kicking off.
Yeah. In fact, we're already about a quarter funded after the first 5 days. So yeah, we got a good start. This is my second year of the Space Wizard Science Fantasy Kickstarter. So this is the big one that I put out once a year that basically is getting interest and funding the publishing cost for all the books that are coming out from my press for the next year. So this is 12 new books, and they're gonna be coming out basically one a month until June next year when I'll have year three coming up. And I've already got a couple books lined up for that one. So,
Really?
yep,
That is excellent. That I love the idea that you made this your full time.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
It's so I worked as a mechanical engineer. Got my master's in mechanical engineering in college. Started working at Caterpillar 2 weeks out of college, and yeah, it was great. Just happened to land that job. Um, ended up working there for 17 years as a mechanical engineer and a performance engineering, doing data analysis and machine design and all sorts of cool stuff. Got to drive backhoes and bulldozers and excavators and
Nice.
um, yeah, it was a cool job. But finally got to where I was. It was also in the middle of the pandemic and time for a change. So I had been self-publishing since 2017, and then some of my friends were like, "Well, I want to publish books, but I don't want to do the marketing and whatnot." And I'm like, "Well, I already do that, so you know, I could publish them." So I started out to actually this one, my finger doesn't disappear, and that one, the Distant Gardens, were the first two that I put out. The first one is that one is actually the continuation of one of my authors series, and Distant Gardens is my first lesbian anthology that I put out with weird plants. That one still sells very well. Uh, so after that, I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just open my doors officially. And 2021, um, January, I started getting submissions and then put together the Kickstarter for that June. I'm like, let's see what happens. I had run Kickstarters for my books for like on the order of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. But this was much larger. So the last one we ran it for $13,000 and ended up with about 18,000 total at the end. Um,
That is
so
amazing. And I'm sure the stories come flying out of people that are involved in
yeah. Oh yeah.
who have you
Um,
run into? Like what tell me something about people that are involved here.
ooh, okay. Um, so we
Not a
actually
large
have a
question at all.
yeah. So we have a Discord group with our core authors and the people who were in Distant Gardens. That's sort of our main like writing group.
Okay.
And we're all friends. So and then I'm now putting out books from most of those people and more if I can get them to actually give me the story. Uh, but yeah, so we have me, I'm a mechanical engineer. We have a retired civil engineer. We have a mycologist and one of the premier wood scientists. They're like one of a couple people who works with spalted wood, which is where you
Wow.
bury it in the ground and it gets starts eaten by fungus and it has all these weird cool colors in it. So that's J.S. Fields, and they've actually published they've published some other books with fungus and cool stuff in it. So I got to use them as a resource for no, this one over here, Mycelium and Men, when that was coming out, which was yeah, there you go. uh,
It's so hard to do that. Like I don't know which way to
yeah, I
lean.
know.
Oh, this one here.
So yeah, we got did a lot of research with that. Um, and then let's see who we've got. a couple teachers, like an administrator. Anyway, we've got a great group, so it's actually sort of a small behind the scenes like team that is already helping me out with illustrations and publishing and marketing and all sorts of stuff. And that's really the way to go. I couldn't do this completely by myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's excellent. It's funny. I started as a teacher and I did that for 4 years and then I escaped into engineering.
Yeah.
um and so engineering was I did like quality engineering, but my degree was civil.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot about dirt, which is
Yep.
very interesting. And then going into data analytics, kind of things like that, websites, things like that now. Being able to work from home, it's fabulous because then you can write more.
Yeah.
You can stop and say, okay, 5 minute break, I'm gonna write this, and then go back. So
Yeah.
it's fabulous. I feel like I'm one step in the door of the quit your day job and
Yeah.
do this full time. I can't full time. I would love to, but trying to buy a house, so
Mm,
probably should wait on that. Yeah. But
yeah. We looked into that, and again, it just sign of the times, but started working when it was like 2004, 2005, and happened to buy a house then, and so
yeah.
haven't moved. So that's not as much of a problem for us. But
So what is the first book that's supposed to come out with this series? I don't know, this
yes,
Kickstarter. Yeah.
this Kickstarter. So that one's the one that you actually just revealed right over here. Finger there. So My Heart is Human is the first one that's coming out, and that is from Reese Hogan, who is an amazing author. I've known him for many years, actually since 2015, I think, when we both went on a WXR writing cruise, which was amazing. That's when I started self-publishing. Met him at the same time, and he writes just these heart-rending, gripping books. If you haven't read them yet, go read Shrouded Loyalties, which is about like a sort of alternate 1900s sub crew in a secondary world with like uh dimensional monsters in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also wrote The Deadliest Echo, which is again sort of like a double timeline with some like Russian spies and really cool. So this one, My Heart is Human, is his new book, and this one is about a trans male character. And the author's also trans male, and the character gets an AI stuck in his head that is
Ooh.
sort of slight spoilers. You find out is basically going towards sentience. So now there's this battle in his mind of, is it my mind? Is it the AI's mind?
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and then taking care of his daughter at the same time. So it's great. You got to read it. It's great.
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds like it.
yeah. So that is the first one coming out. That's coming out in July. So right after the Kickstarter ends, and that's what I did last time. So when you back the Kickstarter, you can back any of the books, all the books, a portion of the books, and I send them to you as they come out. So the ebooks, basically any books that you order, you get it as soon as the ebook comes out, and then the physical books, if you've ordered like a couple, I'll send you as soon as they come out. I'll send you all of them, so you don't have to wait for a whole year, to get all the books. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay. So tell me about how can somebody, if they want to donate, where do they go? And
yeah.
I can put this on the screen for us too.
Okay, sure. So you will go to you can either go to Kickstarter.com and search for Space Wizard Science Fantasy, and that should pull it up. It's year 2, Space Wizard Science Fantasy. Or you can go directly to spacewizardsciencefantasy.com, and it is the first link at the very top of the web page.
Okay. I love the logo. This
Yes, that was, there we go. Uh, yeah, so that was also, I think a lot of this I just looked into having the right things at the right time, because that's been my logo since I started. And it was originally black and white, and I actually went to like Fiverr a long time ago and found somebody who did like beer coaster designs. I was like, I want a hat flying through space. I'm gonna call it Space Wizard. Give me a logo. Um, So then we colorized it later with the Pride colors because I'm running a queer science fiction and fantasy press.
Right.
So so yeah, it looks even better now. I love it. And I routinely have people like come up to me at conventions. I have little keychains and pins and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, Space Wizard," and just buy my logo. So I'm like, "Great, free advertising."
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So how did you, has it always been LGBTQ that you've leaned toward, or how did you like get into that specific group?
That I think like so many queer people, it just got gayer as it went on. Uh,
Yeah.
we and my writing group is like we have several non-binary. I'm bi-pan. Um, we have uh a resident straight guy, uh, and various spectrum of people.
Yeah.
And my the Seeds of Dissolution, which is, see if I can do this on the first try. Here, um, is my first big novel that came out. Um, and that one has a bisexual main character. So that was published in
Okay.
2017. And that one I also was starting to sort of experiment with, let's see how we can do this. And that one has a bunch of species with multiple genders, neopronouns, and it just gets more gay as you get through the books. Um, but that one actually, so I came out as bi-pan in 2019.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that book was published in 2017. That
Gotcha.
really helped me with, you know, figuring out my own journey.
Mhm.
Um, and then after that, I'm like, yeah, let's just make it gayer. Uh, and and what I saw when I actually opened my doors as a small press was this is the sort of stuff that I don't see. Like Tor has their, hey, here's our queer book that came out, and Orbit or whatever has their new queer book that came out. And actually, I picked up My Heart Is Human, uh, because that was almost sold to another publishing company, but they had one already with a trans character.
Interesting.
So yeah, so
The
their loss.
quota was complete, huh?
Quota was complete. So yeah. So
Wow.
I want a publishing company that focuses on queer science fiction and fantasy, and like you want gay books, come buy my stuff, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I,
There,
I got
there
them
you go.
all.
That's in case you didn't hear it. You want queer books? Come buy his stuff.
Yeah.
His stuff. Sorry.
Yes. Um yeah, in fact we did our first Pride Festival last year. Um and we were like the only bookseller at our local Pride, and I sold 85 books in 6 hours. Like it
Wow.
was just, hey, you have gay books,
Yeah.
give me. So yeah.
That
So we're
is
doing that
awesome.
again this year in a couple weeks.
So where are you located? I guess I should ask that.
Oh yeah, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, um, which is uh, it used to be a more liberal state and has fluctuated. It's very on the edge. There's a lot of rural areas. There's a lot of pockets of city. So it's a very diverse mix of people who live here, and it's a great state to live in. I love living here. I just hang my head occasionally when North Carolina makes the news, but
Yeah.
but yeah, um,
I'm in
but yeah.
Mississippi, so I
Oh yeah.
understand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we I was gonna say when we were looking for somewhere to move, North Carolina was one of the ones that we had, considered specific places, like
Mhm.
maybe but yeah, just you want to have a safe space. And I feel like with these books, what I love about it is that it's not just a safe space, it's a fictional safe space as well. And so there's so many avenues and so many places your mind could go and just enjoy, just revel in that place, that very queer place that you
Yeah.
want to be in, and
Yeah.
just let it be.
Yeah. And that's also what I'm looking for in like as my publishing company. I focus on a lot of space opera, you know, fun tales, a lot, and they can have darker elements, but I like books that have a happy ending, and everything generally goes okay, there's conflict in the story, but stuff happens. But a lot of the books that I publish are normalized queer books. So it's a society where queer people accepted. It's not a book about, hey, I have to battle my way to make to accept me. It's I want to get past that point. I want to normalize that, and not to say anything against people who are fighting those battles, because those are amazing people. But this is science fiction and fantasy, so we can have some fun. And what I want to see is what's the end point of those societies. Let's have a society with normalized, different couples, different pairings, normalized queer people.
Right.
And so I love to read that stuff, and that's what I publish.
That's awesome. That is so good to hear. And I'm thanking you very much for, broadening this place for space, no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just allowing these books to, come into existence. And I know it's the authors bringing them into existence, but I'm just grateful, to have someone to put them out there,
Yeah.
really, really market it.
And that's another reason why I do this. Like I am the face of the business. I'm a 40 something white male, right? So I sort of fall in the normal bucket, right? And I can pass, I'm married to a woman, even though I'm bi pan, and but I can be the face of this business, and also I can serve as sort of an umbrella for people to get their stories out, right?
Right.
Um, so if you don't want to have your publisher, your author picture on the website, that's fine. If you want to come to me and just say, hey, I want to get the story out and I don't have a place to do it, um, that's why I want to be an umbrella. I'm the first line of defense against this. Um, I'm gonna be there for my authors if there's any sort of flack, publicly for books,
Right.
because I have more social, just the amount of years that white men have been in control.
Right.
I can serve as a front. So
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I really do. My partner is black, and you know, there's certain places we go and I'll just go in by myself, just go do whatever by myself and come out and just keep it smooth, because it's just
yeah,
certain places where you don't want to deal with it, you just
yeah,
don't want to have to deal with it. And so I definitely get that. And I feel like, you hate to use the P word, but privilege is a
oh
thing.
yeah, yeah,
And to be able to say, I'm I want to use my privilege for good, like
right,
being, I'm a lesbian, but you can't tell that just by, walking past me, unless
right,
I'm just being goofy, but
yeah,
it's one of those things like if that's what society wants to think, that I have some kind of normalcy that somebody else doesn't have, okay, then let me be the face of this for right now until you can kind of get your mind together and realize,
yeah,
not everybody's going to be like you, and
yeah.
you have to understand that. And I like that. I actually read a series recently, and I'll tell you the name of it later, but I don't want
Okay.
to spoil it. But there's a character, and it's I have a German Shepherd in case you can hear him.
Hmm.
Um, Odin. Um, anyway, so hold on, I'm gonna pause. All right, buddy. Hush, hush, hush. And we're back. Okay. Okay. But I read a series recently that there's a character in it who is realizing that the boy that's been in the village growing up with her that really wants to marry her, she's like, I don't know why I don't like him like other girls seem to like boys, and it's one of those situations I relate to her so well, because growing up in the society that I did in the little pocket in Mississippi, it was like you did not talk about that. That was not a
Hmm.
topic for discussion. And so it wasn't until college that I was like, oh, I get it. Like
There are
that's,
other options. Yeah,
yeah, it was like I thought that, my teacher that I just constantly watched in the classroom was just really, really cool. And I wanted to be like her. No, I had a crush on her,
Hmm.
but it was just not something talked about. And so you didn't consider it as an option. And
Yeah.
so once I got to college and just kind of learned more about the world in general, and said, oh, okay, I'm gay, then I was able to really start to become my best self, and who I really am.
Yeah.
But this book is one of those books that really helped me identify with a fictional character. And I didn't expect that. Like, it was supposed to be a book about dragons.
Uh-huh.
That's all I knew. There was going to be dragons in it. And do you already know what series I'm
I think
talking
I know what it is, but
about?
I'll wait till you say.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you later. But I don't want to spoil it for the viewers.
Okay.
But yeah, when she realizes that she's gay, of course she doesn't really know the word. She just knows that this person that has come actually is supposed to be the bad guy,
Hmm.
comes, and she's like crushing on her, and she's like, she's so beautiful and evil. Wait, she's bad. But it was like, I get that, and I see that natural attraction that you have, and you think it's wrong just because somebody's told you it's wrong. And then you turn around and you're like, wait, I'm once you realize that your life is about, your own perception,
Hmm.
you dig inward, and only it's like you dig inward far enough, you find that springboard that'll bounce you back out,
Right.
but you have to dig deep enough to figure out who you are
Yeah.
and then go from there, and I think that's been my journey over the past probably 10 years, is really to get to that place.
Yeah. I I have something very similar that yeah, well, I mean you got there before I did because you figured it out in college. Um I I sort of realized that in college, and then I was telling this to my wife when I came out to her that it was, I was sort of like, yeah, guys are cool and are cool in college, and what do I want a girlfriend or a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Um, and then and this was also 20 years ago, so the
Mm.
perception of bisexual was not what it is today. Um, and I was like, well, this is the path I have to follow, and get married, have children, whatever. Um, so that's what I did, and and my wife is my best mate. So like that's the person I would have chosen. Um but just coming back to it later and saying, "Oh, that's what happened. There are other options." That's there could have been different paths. And really writing The Seeds of Dissolution it was funny because I wrote that was my first book, so I wrote like the 8 or 9 drafts of it before getting anywhere. And I always had I had a side character, then turned into 2 side characters, and it was a male and a female, and I could never figure out where the main character fit and how they were, at what the relationship was between these two. And I didn't want a love triangle, and I didn't really know what was going on. And
Huh.
it was only till like the latest version before it got published, I'm like, oh, he's bi. He wants both of them. So
That's what it is. Okay.
yeah, and then it worked, and the dynamic worked for the whole book. And that's actually so it's him on the first cover and then the other two on the second and third cover, because it really the trilogy turns into them as a trio, and her heroic journey and all that stuff.
That is really neat. I was just thinking about how bisexuality is so just ignored,
Mm,
and judged, because it's like, well, you say you're bi, but it doesn't matter because you're married. So and it's like, it's not about how I express it.
mm,
It's not about, there's a difference between identity and choices,
right.
and it's like, I need to know my identity. I need to understand myself, even if I'm over here on this path that to society looks this way. I need to know who I am despite that all, and I feel like if people could really look at their own lives and realize, some people have trouble deciding if they're a blonde or a brunette. They just really just have such a hard time trying to figure out what's best. And it's like, do you not hear yourself?
Yeah, yeah,
You're
exactly.
struggling with the identity of what you look like. How much deeper is it? for somebody with that, the identity that I'm trying to decide on could decide my future mate,
Right.
a different, it's just like, if you could understand your own journey, then you would understand other people's journeys as well, because you realize along the way, eventually you realize it's not about what they think of me, and it's not about what I want them to think of me. It's about who I actually am and who you actually are. And that's not for me to decide, and it's not for me to choose, and it's not for me to color, like, you are your own hue.
Hmm. Yeah, that comes back to, having privilege and being white and all this, being the face of this company as well, because I do a lot of conventions and markets and things. We actually have 5 this month
Wow.
alone for the Kickstarter to sort of get the word out. Um, but I will routinely have, middle-aged white guys come up and look at the books. And I have a big sign at the bottom now, which an artist at a convention made me, and it has sold so many books. It says lesbians in space where no man has gone before. Uh,
Yes.
and so I hang that under my Argilum finger here, Argilum section, and the lesbian anthologies, and that buys book. And I actually have a lot of men come up. They're like, yeah, lesbians in space. That sounds cool. I'll get that.
Huh.
Um, as I said, they sell pretty well. So, but I can be that face of, middle-aged white guy coming up and like, well, what are these queer books about? And
Yeah, that's
maybe sell them a book.
right. Yeah, it's good to have that. It's a two-sided coin to have that, identity that is queer, that is, to some people different,
Mm,
and have the face that looks a lot like a lot of the people you see on TV,
right.
And I think it's very brave of you to check yourself inwardly and, see who you are and accept that about yourself and be willing to come out when you didn't have to.
Yeah.
You could have just stayed the white guy, and just been straight white guy, cisgender, boom, and
Yep.
it's just like, to have that gumption to say, this is who I am. And I think it really shows a lot of solidarity with the LGBTQ community. Um, you know, One of my favorite, I guess, groups, organizations is I don't know if you've heard of the Out and Equal Workplace Advocates.
No.
Okay, they do I believe it's the largest LGBTQ plus conference in the
Okay.
world, like
Good. Yeah.
yearly.
Hmm.
It's a workplace summit, and I've gone the last few years with my company. And last year we got to do a workshop, and it
Hmm.
was it was so cool. But we're hoping we'll get accepted to do it again, do something similar this year. But the leader of the whole thing is Erin Uritis, and she's bi, and
Hmm.
she talks about that, and she talks about the invisibility of people who are bisexual,
Yeah.
and how it's still important, even if I look like I'm married straight,
Right.
whatever. It's important to come out and to, like Harvey Milk said, come out wherever you are, you
Yep.
know, to show that the people are not alone, especially those who are bisexual and look like they're gay
Right.
because they're with the same sex.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And actually, it's been a lot more fun, honestly. After I came out, because I can be in that group and I can talk to fellow queer people, and I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And I actually, my wife and I together put together a statement when I came out in 2019, put it on social media and whatever for all my friends to see. And I actually
right.
had one of my close friends contact me like a day later and sent me a long email. It was basically, oh, this is what I've been thinking for years, and thanks so much
Really,
for coming out. So we had some long talks about that, and it was
that's
very nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
We had
So
a lot of trouble, like my family had a lot of trouble with me being gay, but in the meantime, I found out that I have a cousin who is transgender,
Mhm.
And I don't know that I ever really would have met him if I hadn't have come out, you know.
Yeah.
I had another cousin that told me that it was one of those conversations like, I I think, I mean, I'm attracted to men, but I love my wife, and I'm
Mhm.
not, and it's like he had to tell me, but he was just trying to say, but I'm not gay. I just because I love my wife, and I'm like, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You can, that's okay. You can tell me that.
Yeah.
But and then I've also seen a couple of family members who at first quit talking to me, coming back around now and asking me questions and trying to
Mhm.
understand, which is beautiful to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's hard at first, it's hard for a lot of people, I think, to have that conversation with their families, or for the families to find out. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Um, just find out some other way. But you know, one thing that I think is funny is I feel like, we come out in stages,
Mhm.
especially when we're still learning about ourselves. And I came out to myself when I was like 21, 22. I feel like it was a long process, so it was somewhere in there that time. Um, but I ended up writing a poem about it because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's actually, I've used it in several places. It's said mushroom to flower because it's
Uh,
kind of the idea of a mushroom who is different talking to a
mhm.
flower who's well known and,
Yeah.
um, understood basically. But anyway, so I was at my company, and we have an employee resource group that is for Pride, and they didn't have a chapter at my facility, which is in smack dab center of Mississippi. And I mean, I was out. I had been out by that point. I had been out for about 10 years, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but we had a booth, and it was me and one other guy, a bisexual guy who, what I love, well, love is a bad term there. What I
Yeah.
think is interesting about his life is that
Mhm.
um his father was in the Klan,
Mhm.
um and he married a black woman um later in life, and he's bi, and it's just like, you have such a beautiful story, painful story, but beautiful
Yeah.
story for fighters, for those who
Mhm.
are gonna get out of the mud and figure things out for themselves. But he stood beside me at this booth that was like a kind of a here's what the ERG is about. Here's, some pamphlets, here's some things to learn, and what he said to the people, he said, you don't have to be gay or bisexual or transgender to be part of the group. And I remember thinking, oh, he said those words out
Yeah.
loud, you know, and then I was like, why did that bother me,
Yeah.
and it didn't bother me, it shocked me. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, 10 years later I still am whispering these words in
Yep.
public.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, it's okay, that's good to know. That is, as Toyota would call it, a golden nugget, um something I found in my process that is a problem, and now
Yep.
I'm glad I know it because now I can fix it.
Yes. Yeah.
um
I love how
but
you
yeah.
put those in there because coming from Caterpillar, we did all the same. Um, and now I'm completely blanking, but the Pokio process and
Right,
all these different
the lean processing,
yes, lean processes. Yeah, we had a Lambda, basically Lambda Society at Caterpillar as well.
Oh, good.
And I was seriously thinking about joining. I came out June 2019, and so thought about it for about half a year, and then pandemic. So
Yeah.
I like to think that I would have joined up with them and done some stuff for Caterpillar if I had stayed with them longer or had not been in the middle of a pandemic. But
Right.
but so it goes. So instead, I started a queer publishing company.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
It was really funny, actually. He, the guy that I was working with, when he joined the company and said, "Why don't we have a chapter of this
Mm.
ERG?" I had been there for 2 years,
Mhm.
and and I'm out and proud, and
Yeah.
always been kind of out there, and so they pointed him to me because they
Mm.
were like, token lesbian on site,
Yeah.
go talk to her. And so he talked to me, and I was like, yeah, you should totally start that. That's great. I will support you, whatever. it turns out the position that he had was a direct charging job, and he wasn't able to use the hours to lead an ERG. There was some kind of rule in there, you know.
Right.
And so they were like, who can lead it since he can't? And I was like,
Who indeed? Yeah.
yeah. And but it's funny because that was a really good stepping stone for me, because going forward, I ended up I'm now the communications chair for our company's like broader we've merged, like we have like three companies that merged together,
Hmm.
and one of those companies I'm the communications chair for the whole company,
Yeah.
you know, unit, I guess you'd say. um and it's really, I never would have gotten there without him saying, hey, why don't we have a chapter, you know. And I feel like there's
Yeah.
so many situations where we don't feel like our one little step, we think it's a tiny step or a little drop in the ocean, and it really is creating waves that we cannot imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. And that's the side job I have now along with publishing is doing data analysis tutoring, actually, with an online degree system. And they're a very it's a company in Germany, and they're very open, very accepting, and have, a
Interesting.
lot of diversity and inclusion in it. So but I also occasionally get a queer student, and we do video calls, and for mentoring and things like that. And
Interesting. Okay.
I'll sort of poke the water just a little bit, and like, yeah, you're okay, okay, and mention, hey, I run a queer science fiction and fantasy publishing company, and they're like, oh, I love that.
Oh, very
So
cool.
yeah,
I
so
love that.
I've had a couple trans students, and several gay and lesbian students, and um, so it's great to make that connection and say, that, yep, this is, you can be in this field, and be out, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm actually a data analyst myself, so
Yeah.
you can be in that field and be out
Yeah.
to all of
Oh
your
yeah,
students
definitely.
watching.
Yeah. And that, I sort of fell into that because, as I said, I was trained in mechanical engineering, and then sort of realized that basically everything I was doing was data analysis. So instead of, I mean, it's connected to engineering, but
Mhm.
specifically I was working on machine performance, which is overall analysis of the machine. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
I got an engineering degree and then did like totally not engineering things, but it got me in the company because it was an engineering degree. So hey,
Right. Right.
that's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that we've covered some really awesome topics, some personal stuff, some
Yeah.
book stuff. I What else? So what have we not touched on this page? I know there's some
Yeah. There's some,
here
there's
we
some
need to
other
cover.
stuff here. Well, actually, so these finger there, these titles in the middle, and I talked about My Heart is Human. So these other ones are the covers that I have out for the first novels that are coming out. So My Heart is Human over here is the first one, and then Junk Junction on the other side is the second one. And I'm really excited about this one as well. This is my first, first full mid-grade novel,
Okay,
also by one of my authors in my writing group, Sarah Cordair, and it has a non-binary main character,
nice.
and they're probably 11, 12, sort of preteen age, and again, it's sort of an accepting atmosphere, um, but there's some good explanations in there of, like, I don't think I'm a boy or a girl, and I choose to be non-binary and use they them pronouns. And there's also a sort of adult figure in there that's non-binary as well, and they use mix instead of Mrs. or Mr. So
Right.
it's a
Okay.
really nice introduction. It's also a cool, creepy story. It's got ghosts and possessed mannequins, and
Ooh.
yeah, it's actually going to my wife, who's my copy editor, and she's like, I don't know if I want to read this. But
How funny.
yeah, but it's a very creepy story, but it's also very good. And has a lot. It has a trans character, has a non-binary character. I want to say a lesbian character, but all sort of preteen characters, and so some really good representation in there.
That's awesome.
Uh, and let's see what else. I've got this one, Ajakaba, which I'm also really excited about. I think that one and Peace in the Sky are coming out close to each other. Those are going to be the next couple. So Ajakawa is a book by an Indian guy, a guy from India, and it's about an indigenous culture with basically white colonizers coming in.
Ooh.
And so it was um, submitted to me, and I'm like, yes, I want this book. Just give it to me. And so read it, and we did through a couple rounds of revising on it. And it's a really nice story. It's a very tight novella, but it has a an indigenous society with some hints of what they were before, colonizers came in and before things happened. But it also has you can't really see it in there. You can sort of see the shadow of a scorpion above the woman's head on the cover. There
Where
is
is
a
that one? Is that at the top?
right above your head, the Ajakawa.
Okay.
Yeah, right here. So
I want to see
right
it.
at the top,
Okay.
you can
There
barely
we go.
see
Okay,
that.
go ahead.
So there is a scorpion god.
Ooh.
That there are dreams of the scorpion god. It's a very cool story. So I'm excited to for that to come out. That's my first well, not first non-American because I have a Canadian author and a UK author, but my first Indian author. Uh, so
Okay.
very excited for that one. And then Peace in the Sky is the next one, and yeah, on the other side, and that's one's more of, I don't want to say it's not queer content, but it's sort of lighter queer content. It's a autistic slash um, ace character, but it's more about the journey in there, and that's about that character has amnesia, and so is
Mm.
taking her daughter through a sort of a post-apocalyptic wasteland and
Ooh,
finding more
interesting.
about hints of that she isn't really who she thinks she is, and how the society works.
That sounds like a cool base for a video game.
Yeah, very much.
Like
There's
different
some
worlds. Yeah,
different tribes in there, and different stuff that happens. Yeah, it's very cool.
very.
So let's see. What else? I got two more that I can cover that are like the next one's coming out. The third anthology, lesbian anthology, will be coming out, and this one I am really, really excited about. This is my third one. So Distant Gardens was the first. That's Weird Plants. The second one is Farther East with Pirates and Mermaids and Sea Creatures. Third one is going to be called Lofty Mountains, and it has steampunks and mountains and airships. We have 12 authors in there, including we have a story by Shannon McGuire. So I am really excited for this one to come out. Um,
Awesome.
I am currently writing my story for it, which will include giant bees and bee riders.
Funny.
Yeah, because I'm also a beekeeper, so now
Really?
that's falling into my books now more often.
Ah, oh yeah.
So, so
A
I get
bee.
to sort of explore a bee society with people like living in a beehive. Um,
Have you seen the Bee movie?
I have. That was a long time ago. Yeah, it's
I
very
saw that
fun.
last year, I think. I was like, okay, education. It's teaching
Yeah,
me things. I like it.
yeah, yeah. Beekeeping is fun. I'm actually going to pick up my fourth hive tomorrow morning,
Ah,
from somebody who's got captured a swarm and put it in there. So I'll be bringing that in.
interesting.
But yeah, that's lots of fun. And then I have one more book which I keep trying to move out of the way of, with a bright yellow cover. This is called How to Operate Your Body. So this is actually my first nonfiction book that is coming out this year. So less queer representation with that one. But it's nonfiction, and I've taught martial arts for about 20 years. So this is all about how to move your body. It's how to walk, how to move. Specifically, this one is called the legs. So this is dealing basically from the floor to your waist, is what I cover in this book. So it's how your joints are connected, how you move, how you can move with more efficiency. And then I literally have a section, the back half of the book is how to walk. So
Wow.
yeah, it's all about, moving around, becoming, less pain while you move, better posture, being more efficient. And it's been putting this together for a while, so I'm excited to have this finally come out and see what people think about it.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I hear RuPaul and walk.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important, and I guess to drag this back into the queer sphere, um, it's also a way you present yourself. I show, go through in there and have pictures of myself in different positions and how you present yourself. And I've seen a lot of scared looking queer people,
Hmm.
sort of put that in quotes, because of their posture. And I notice posture because I teach martial arts. So notice how they walk, how they move, and that they're very, um, accepting and sort of submissive in their
Hmm.
movements, because they've
Interesting.
been
Yeah.
trained that way.
Right.
So if you have really good posture, it helps build your confidence and it helps you
Mhm.
put
Yeah.
yourself. I know I talk about this and everybody sits up straight,
Yeah.
uh, um, but it helps build your confidence. It helps you put yourself out there, and you make a decision, and you come out, or you decide to go with this, and I promise it's better if you stand up straight and march out there rather than huddling in on yourself and acting like you're scared that you're out. Be proud that you're out. You know, uh,
One thing that my partner told me one time, I was in one of those kind of situations where I was kind of cowering, and she looked at me and she said, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." And
yeah,
so that, for anyone who doesn't know, that's from Dirty Dancing, and it's just kind of a reminder that, if you're being oppressed, you nobody should put you in a corner. You should be
yeah,
able to be yourself and do what you want to do.
yeah. And I teach that in my martial arts class. Is the first thing is don't get in a fight, and one of the ways to do that is be confident, stand up straight, walk like you know what you're doing, and oftentimes that is enough to dissuade somebody.
Wow.
And so, being queer or being in a marginalized community, um, and I'm obviously generalization, but sometimes it's better just to be stand up straight and be assertive, and
Yeah.
um, people respect you more, basically.
Interesting. I have a my the only time that I've dabbled in fiction, in prose. I usually write poetry.
Hmm.
Um, and the only thing I've written that doesn't try to get rhythm and rhyme, which it probably does anyway, but it ended up having a character in it that you don't know their name at first. And I didn't know their name. I was actually writing it. I know a lot of authors that identify with me on this. It was like the character was talking to me and telling me what to write. This
Yeah.
is my story, write this down. And as I'm writing, I don't know what's coming next. And the neighbor came across and was with the main character, and the main character is in first person, and they said she called me Bobby, and I was good with that. And I was like, I don't know if this
That's
is transgender. I don't know if this is non-binary. I don't know what it
very
is.
cool. Yeah.
And yeah, it was really, really interesting. And I'll tell you what, you're talking about teamwork in the beginning of this video. And I have a friend who I'll call him out, Dow Welch. I'm trying to get him to publish. Um, he's got a beautiful artwork that he does. He just draws, and
Mhm.
he just does pencil sketches that just, I mean, they're gorgeous. And what was so fascinating is that he sent me one once, and poetry immediately came to mind. And so
Yeah.
anytime he sends me a drawing, I'm able to respond with poetry. And it is just such a cool dynamic. But
That's
one
very
day
cool.
he sent me a picture and I froze and I said, "That's Bobby.
Oh wow.
That's Bobby."
That's yeah.
To me, and I said, what was your idea behind this drawing? And he said, actually, this is one that I actually didn't have an idea for. Usually he had a little idea in his mind, a girl from college or something,
Hmm.
but he didn't this time. It was just that was, and I
Wow.
said, Bobby. So it's really, really,
That's
I
very cool.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't see it, but I'm sitting at my desk where I write, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of art above my desk.
Oh,
And I, just get from local cons, and actually 3, 4 of the pictures are by artists that I've since commissioned for works. Um, but
interesting.
yeah, I just like it up there, and every once in a while, just look up, and it gives me an idea.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to remember that when we set up our house, we're wanting to have a room that's for creativity,
Hmm.
Like put the
Yeah.
guitar in a corner, put the
Yeah.
easel in a corner, like get
Yeah.
that creative vibe going. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, but to your story though, I have something similar with characters telling you, what they're doing, and it's actually in the uh third book of the Seeds of Dissolution over here. So I'll try not to spoil anything, but that actually has a trans narrative in it, and I did not know that was going to be part of the book
Oh,
because
neat.
it's actually sort of, you could sort of see it on on the cover. It's a character holding a thing, and there's a choice to be made.
Mm.
And well, there wasn't even a choice to be made. He was actually carrying it somewhere, and I wrote that section, and the character's like, "Nope, this is what I'm doing. We're going off here now," and it
Wow.
became a trans narrative because it changed him. It changes his body, how he uses it,
Wow.
and really connects him a lot to his ancestry and where he came from, and things that were hidden for a long time. He starts to suddenly realize them and understand what's been happening. And
Oh,
it was so fun to write, and really just came out of nowhere. I literally got to that point in the scene, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I'm writing now. Let me go change my outline because this is going to affect the rest of the book.
I love when our characters come out to us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
Well, Bill, thank you so much for talking to me today. Thank you for telling us about the Kickstarter, and
yeah.
I hope everyone will go and donate and just check these books out. I'm really looking forward to reading. I think my donation, it said I would get a paperback book. So
Yes,
I haven't picked one yet.
yes,
You can
yeah. So I
comment.
guess the way that works, if you're wondering,
Oh yeah, that's
is
good to know.
yeah. So you back it. You basically give me some money now, and it helps publish all the books. But at the end of the Kickstarter, the end of June, it'll finish, and I will send out a survey and then basically list all the books and all the description and everything, and you pick what you want. So there's some different levels. You can pick one book or three books or five books, and there's some add-ons. You can pick other books. So if you want, two or three of these and want to try out a couple series, you can do that and then get those books. And sort of like I like to think of it as just like a mini bookstore that sort of has a special going on once a year, and you
Yeah,
can find a lot of cool books, basically.
that's excellent. That's excellent. All right, well, we'll definitely put some links in the section down below on the
Yep,
video.
down there.
And yeah, and just I mean, this is a gorgeous background. I was very happy to be able to have this today. And just to look, let me move over so we can see
Yeah,
some books we didn't get to see
I'll do
earlier.
that as well. Yeah,
Yep.
hopefully
and
see all of those.
and for any that we missed, I'm sure we will be talking again, and we'll make sure that we cover what we can. And
Yeah,
again, thank you so much, and I
yeah,
look forward to talking to you again. Let's do
yeah,
this more.
definitely. Thank you for having me on this. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Hey, you have a great night, and
All right.
everybody keep reading.
Yes.
Happy Pride.
Yeah. Happy Pride.